If your AWS bill is too high, I've got something you should try. Veeam is cost effective. Don't you ever forget it. I said Veeam is cost effective. Why don't you get it? Get it, get it, get it.
All right, well, good morning, good afternoon, maybe even good evening to everyone that is joining us today on this LinkedIn Live session. A little bit of a special one. We debuted one of our new videos right before we kicked off. I've got in the grunge spirit with the long hair and everything, but David, what are you doing today?
Losing mine and trying to accommodate a beard instead.
That's all right. You've got the anger, so it fits well. So I appreciate everyone joining today. Hope you enjoyed that first little video there. It's a bit of a teaser. You guys can go out and watch it on YouTube. I think someone is going to post that in the LinkedIn Live thread. And we've got a number of other themes or genres coming down the pike over the next few weeks as well. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. Just a little bit of fun for us. So this LinkedIn Live session today is all around why AWS backup must be native. And there's a little bit of a caveat on that must, which David and I are really going to dive into today. So for those of you that haven't joined a session with myself and David before, I'm Sam Nicholls, Director of Product Marketing. I deal with anything and everything public cloud. So when it comes to AWS, Azure, GCP, that one falls on me. And then my partner in crime on the technology, smarter side of things is David. David, a few welcome words from you today.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm David Hill. I'm a global technologist in the product strategy group. So I report into our CTO, Danny Allen. And very similar to Sam, I focus on all the cloud native technologies. So public cloud like AWS, Azure, GCP, dip my toes in the Kubernetes world quite a lot as well. So big focus on cloud native, and excited today to talk to you about agents and cloud native and some of the differences.
All right, cool. Well, before we get started, there is like one change for those that have joined in before. So LinkedIn is now turning on the automatic closed captioning. If you don't like it, I think there's a button in the bottom right-hand corner that you guys can click, turn it off, say see you later. But if you like it, give it a try. Let's give the engine a run for its money, see how well it can keep up with our English accents, some of the technical jargon as well. It's a nice little test. We also on these sessions like to see where everyone is dialing in from, right? Joining our session from across the globe. So our video guy is going to bring up the map right here, and you can see myself here in Wisconsin. So I'm just on the border with Minnesota and Minneapolis. David is joining us from Austin, Texas, our video guy in Atlanta, Georgia, and then way across the pond in Romania, we have our lovely social media ladies helping us out as well. So in the chat, just throw in where you're dialing in from. We like to revisit it a few times throughout the session, just see where we get. I can already see some people filling in. Someone from Mozambique is joining us. So I think that's definitely a new one for us. So welcome. Thanks for tuning in. So today's session is all around, AWS backup and why it should be native. I mentioned before, there's a caveat on the must, and I think, firstly and foremost, David and I should discuss that caveat, right? Because there's a number of options that you guys have when it comes to protecting your workloads in AWS. That might be the more traditional agent-based approach. You might be opting to leverage things like built-in snapshots that you can manually take in the console. You might want to script that yourself, or you might opt for third-party tools. So first and foremost, David, let's have a little discussion around why people might choose to go with agents when it comes to protecting stuff in AWS, and some of the situations or reasons why someone might opt for an agent when it comes to protecting cloud-native workloads.
Yeah, so the first thing to address, as you mentioned, is the agents themselves. Why do people use agents? Well, agents have been around for a very long time from a backup perspective. And the main reason why people use agents in today's world is a very specific focus on an application type. So if they want to protect like a SQL database with inside an instance or a virtual machine, or like Oracle or something like that. Using an agent that's designed specifically for the application provides a lot of capabilities, allowing you to have application-aware backups. Now, when we look at that, that makes sense in the public cloud that you may need to use agents for some of these, because you can't necessarily use a platform API to go and take a snapshot of that particular instance and it actually knows something about the application running in there. But that being said, for the typical like tier 2, tier 3 workloads that aren't mission critical, most people should be looking to use native technologies. And when I say native technologies, I mean things like platform snapshots, offloading the backups to actually object storage, stuff like that, rather than having to build out this big solution with agents and integrate networking and stuff like that. Finding a data protection solution that can just leverage the native snapshots and native technology to protect those workloads, but also provide the capabilities to restore quickly. When you bring agents in from a cloud perspective, it obviously increases your recovery time objective, because you have to then bring up your virtual machines and instances, then recover the agent, and then recover the data into those. So depending on how you're doing this, there's not a one size fits all solution, and it purely depends on your use case.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? Sometimes we've just got applications that we've chosen to have live in the cloud, and there is no viable native option to go out and protect that. So, maybe it's something like SAP HANA. I think one of the other components as well is just, who are you using for backup on premises right now? And what do they have within their solutional tool set when it comes to protecting the cloud? And not every single vendor has a native option. So the kind of default is to go with an agent. Again, I think agents have a time and a place, right? It might be a specific application. It might be the need for things like application-aware processing, different from application consistency. And it just, again, might be what's available to you in your current solution now. So, I don't necessarily want to say like agents are, null and void, because they're absolutely not. They've got a time and a place. But, ultimately, I think that a number of applications or services and data sets can and should be protected with a native approach. So our video guy is going to bring up a little slide here right now. This is actually from some unpublished research from Jason Buffington and Dave Russell. And this slide is really just going to give you an idea as to how workloads are being protected in the cloud today. So on the left-hand side, we asked this to both backup admins as well as IaaS admins. And, built-in snapshots of cloud storage, a number of guys are opting for that. We've got the third-party backup tools that use agents inside each and every single one of those cloud-hosted VMs, and then the current adoption of third-party tools for natively protecting cloud data. So, we can see from this that stuff's heavily skewed towards that agent-based approach right now. I would argue again that, if you're leveraging cloud native services, they deserve a cloud native backup and recovery option. But again, sometimes that's limited. But, one thing that I noticed here when I was talking with Jason and Dave about this was this adds up to more than 100. So, ultimately, people are using a mixed approach. So in the next couple of slides, I kind of took that, built a pivot table out of it, fun stuff, love Excel, to really see how that broke down into all the different flavors. So the next slide shows, just who's using agents only, cloud native only, native third-party tools, and then a mixture of all the possible mixtures of those compilation. So it's a bit of an eyeful, so I'm not going to make you look at it for too long, because the next slide really just breaks it down as into who's sole sourced on what. And that kind of seafoam green one really shows that almost a third of you guys out there are still using agents inside each and every VM. So premise behind this conversation is I'm going to start to ask David a number of reasons, why you might not want to use an agent for all of your cloud native workloads, and why a native tool set would be better. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at the map again, see what we have coming in right now. Okay, so some more folks. Yeah, we're everywhere right now. So New York, California, Ohio, that might be some of our colleagues from Veeam. Hello. Philadelphia. I think down in South America, we saw Argentina there. Over in Europe, France, Belarus. I had a number of Belarusian friends growing up. Taught me some words that I shan't repeat on this session. Sri Lanka, India. So we've really got a mixed bag. So thanks everyone for joining today. Really appreciate you having here, and hopefully you're finding the content helpful today.
I'm always really impressed with your geography skills. You must have done really well at school.
Mate, not at all. I think I didn't study it very well. Fortunately, we have people giving it to the right-hand side of me right now, exactly what these countries are and states are. I should know every single state because that was part of my citizenship exam. But yeah. The rest of them, some are obvious, some are a little bit difficult. So thanks for calling me out on that one, David.
Always a pleasure.
All right, cool. One other reminder as well for anyone that joined us just before or after we got kicked off even is there's a new feature that LinkedIn has implemented around closed captioning where it's trying to keep up with how fast Dave and I talk and understand our very strange accents. But if you're finding it annoying, there's a button in the bottom right-hand corner that you can just click, turn that closed captioning off, and we should be good.
I'd love to see how well it does with my Northeast English accent.
Yeah, mine's a bit of a mix between American and English, so definitely weird. And we're going to throw in as much technical jargon as we can to really give it a run for its money and see how well that AI works. So, let's start to get on to why you wouldn't want to opt for an agent inside each and every VM. We've discussed why you might want to, but let's have a chat around why you wouldn't want to. So, David, let's think of a reason. Just not. I mean, I know we have multiple reasons we prepared for this call, but any one of those reasons, think of it and let's have a discussion about it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why you wouldn't look to use agents is restores. So think about your recovery time objectives. Now, I kind of touched on it a minute ago, but for a data protection solution that integrates with that particular platform, when you want to recover your workloads, how are you going to do that if it's agent based? Are you going to go and create that instance fresh, reinstall Windows? Are you going to deploy it from a new AMI or some gold standard build and then recover the data into it? Whereas when you look at a native solution that can leverage the actual APIs of that cloud platform, then you can restore your EC2 instances immediately into that platform from those backups because you're literally recreating the instance and restoring the volumes directly through APIs. Another kind of consideration is again around like your RPOs as well. How are you going to meet your requirements for your RPOs with agents? Are you able to take like sub 15-minute snapshots with agents? Some agents offer that, some agents don't. So it really depends on what your requirements are. And also, where is the centralized data management going to be for those agents? A lot of solutions have been designed around on-prem. So you have a backup server deployed on-prem, and then you would then deploy your agents, and they typically go and talk back to that management server. Certainly how Veeam Backup and Replication does it. Now, that is a very good way of developing this, but if you have multiple sites, then you need to consider like your networking topology and stuff like that around agents and having that communication. When you go with a native solution, maybe you have an appliance deployed in that cloud platform, and then that can go off and talk to the APIs, just leverage like platform snapshots like Veeam Backup for AWS does with AWS EBS snapshots and things like that. So big consideration around that, and a big difference in how you implement a backup solution and also put in some of the design considerations around that.
Okay, so I think that's a great point, right? So firstly is around achieving your RPOs, achieving your RTOs. I think the next one really comes in with management overhead, right? So management overhead from your perspective, right? The amount of time that you're spending kind of, I don't want to say babysitting agents, but installing, managing, maintaining agents inside of each and every VM, especially in a large elastic environment in AWS, but also management overhead from a compute and a storage standpoint, right? So you have agents installed inside of each and every VM. You're ultimately going to be increasing the I/O demands on that VM, and in a world where you pay for all of that compute that you're using, agents inside each and every VM can be an absolute burden to manage, but it can also become pretty expensive. So, David, anything that you want to add around that?
Yeah, also think about like storage costs as well, and where you're going to store all these backups from the agents. If, like in a traditional sense, you deploy a backup server out in the public cloud, and then you leverage like EBS volumes for backup repositories, that can get expensive pretty quickly. Not saying that native snapshots can't get expensive, but when you're looking at EBS volumes, maybe the thing that you don't want to be doing is creating terabytes of data just to store your backup data files. So considerations around that, it all comes back to those standard design considerations that we would typically use no matter where we're deploying a solution, whether it be on-prem, in the cloud, or whatever. These standard design considerations play a part whether we're doing it on-prem storage or out in the public cloud. And when we focus on the native aspects, what's really good about using products that are able to leverage the cloud platform APIs is things like data retention. So when we talk about snapshots, being able to manage the retention of those snapshots so you can minimize your costs when actually taking these snapshots, because maybe you are offloading those to S3, which is obviously a cheaper storage model than having tons of EBS snapshots around, or whatever cloud platform you're running them in. So I would say that the three main considerations around whether you're going to go agent-based or whether you're going to go native-based is, first of all, essentially network topology, what is your use case, and then your storage costs. And by looking at those three typical considerations, you can drive a good kind of plan around how you're going to do this. And from a native perspective, that becomes a big driver in helping reduce those costs.
Okay, awesome. And any other reasons why you can think that you would opt for, let's say, a third-party native approach versus leveraging the just built-in snapshots that again, within the AWS console, potentially even scripting that?
Yeah, so third-party native kind of solutions give you a lot of the data management that you don't necessarily have by just integrating directly through that cloud provider. So when you look at a lot of these capabilities around like data retention, management periods, making sure that things meet certain certification requirements, like healthcare, we always hear about HIPAA and stuff like that, making sure that we can integrate and look at those and obviously meet those requirements is a big piece, because data protection isn't just about I've got a backup of these particular files. It's everything else that supports that around those requirements, meeting those certifications, making sure that the data is encrypted at rest, stuff like that, and essentially tying in with those platforms and providing extra capabilities on top of that.
Okay, fantastic. So it looks like we're kind of coming to the end of our session right now. Let's take one more look at that map just to see where we've come. We've got people coming in from. David and I are just going to kind of start to wrap it up with some with some final points from you guys, for you guys even, and we'll give you some pointers on some other shows that we've got coming up. So who else have we got coming in from here? Some more folks from Romania. Oh, we've got the US here. It looks like the Dominican Republic. No other new states have joined there. How about if we move across here? Yep, so we've got Belarus, more folks from Romania, Poland.
Nobody's from the UK today to come and listen to us. You know, they're clearly not missing our accents.
Yeah, just sick and tired of us, mate. Glad to see the back of us. Looks like we've got Albania as well, so thanks for joining from Albania there. Oh, someone from Canada's here as well. Hello. Let's have a look. That looks like... Okay, we've got India, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong. Oh, we got a comment from Edmar in Riyadh as well. He says that he's been using Veeam backup and replication since 2017. Not once has he had a problem from backup or disaster recovery, which is fantastic. You know, Veeam's old motto that we used to have in our logo was "It just works," right? And that's might not be in the logo anymore, but it's absolutely still our mantra. So just want to say thanks again to everyone for joining us today. Hope you're finding the content helpful when it comes to, you know, how you should go about protecting your workload. So, you know, ultimately, just to sum up what Dave and I have been speaking about for the last 20 minutes is you've really got a number of options when it comes to protecting workloads in the cloud. I don't want to say that there's a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to protecting those. So just like we saw when, you know, we started transitioning from physical machines and mainframe to virtual machines, agents certainly could protect virtual machines and are still valid in some circumstances. But, you know, other technologies that were purpose-built for VMs came around, like Veeam, and made the protection of that just that much better. And the same goes for the cloud story, right? You know, there is a time and a place for agents when it comes to the cloud. That might be for very specific applications. It might be when you need application-aware processing. It might be when a native approach currently isn't available for that. It might just be because you currently have a solution to protect your on-premises. You're relying on that vendor, and they just don't have a cloud-native offering within their portfolio. You know, if we switch it over to some of the other options when it comes to native protection, you can absolutely leverage the native snapshots built within the AWS console. You can manually create those, but you know, as David was just talking about, an automated approach when it comes to that is ultimately going to be better. You can spend less time babysitting backups. You minimize the case of, you know, retention policy gaps and thinking something was protected when it's not. Again, super important in the cloud with all of our instances coming and going all the time. You know, it's impossible to stay on top of that. And that's really where those third-party tools come in, right? When it comes to managing the entire environment, having complete visibility into your entire AWS environment, understanding what is protected and what isn't, making sure that the right policy is applied to individual machines, and then fully automated. So the data lifecycle of, you know, of your protection data, whether that's snapshots, image-based backups, is fully automated for you. You can make sure that you're within things like compliance mandates. You can spend less time, again, just looking after all those backups and snapshots and making sure that you create them at the right time, move them over to different storage at the right time, and ultimately delete them. Looks like UK just joined, so hey,
there we go.
Got some people from the motherland. Nice to see you. Any other parting comments from you, David, before we get wrapped up?
Yeah, just kind of clarify, like, and kind of drill that point home about design considerations. You know, look at what it is you're trying to protect, whether it's a particular database type or whether it's just a like web server running in an instance. What is it that you need to protect? And then also think about supporting services as well. So when we think about, like, we always talk about virtual machines with agents, but if agents are not going to help you protect things like RDS instances or manage SQL in Microsoft Azure and so on. So if you need to protect like platform as a service capabilities as well in that particular cloud, how are you going to do that with an agent? So look for a solution that actually gives you the capabilities to not only protect the workloads like EC2 instances, but also the supporting services as well that go along with that. And just make sure that whether you're looking at native or you're looking at agents, whichever one you choose meets those requirements that you need to provide a data protection solution. You know, as you said, Sam, no one size fits all. So,
absolutely. All right, so let's wrap it up for today. If you do want to get your feet wet with trying a native solution, Veeam has Veeam Backup for AWS. Of course, it's AWS-native, leverages all the APIs, snapshot, storage, security goodness that David was talking about. And we give it to you for free forever for up to 10 instances. So you can protect 10 instances, no time limits, no limits on recoveries. So head over to the AWS marketplace. You can deploy that in a number of clicks, and just start trying a native approach and see how that fits. Just a couple of reminders. Monday's show is the third installment of 3 with Jason Buffington and Dave. So they're going to be wrapping up their series on BAS and DRAS. And this one is all about, choosing a provider, making sure that you make that right choice. And then next Friday, I believe at this time, we've got Rick Vanover and Melissa Palmer, and they're going to be joined by Mark Crespi from Exagrid. And that's all going to be about, discussing tiered storage options when it comes to your backups, making sure that you've got performance and capacity-driven offerings there. So again, want to say thanks to everyone for joining. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and David and I will see you on another one soon. Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.